get to the money. Gotta get to the money. Early morning, so you know that I'm on it. So you know that I'm on it. Gotta make sure that my family straight. Gotta make sure that the kids and me. Gotta make sure that the bills is paid. And then let's get to the money. Get to the money. Early morning, so you know that I'm on it. And gotta make sure that my family straight. Gotta make sure that the kids and they. Gotta make sure that the bills is paid. And then let's get to the money. Get to the money.
Welcome to another episode of Drinking After Dark, a podcast where we discuss random topics while having a few drinks. I'm your host, Darius, and as always, drink responsibly. And y'all make sure y'all follow Drinking After Dark Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And y'all make sure y'all like and subscribe to Drinking After Dark Podcast YouTube channel. Tonight, I'm just drinking on some whiskey, vanilla. I'm drinking this straight because what we're going to talk about, man, is really crazy. Um, if you're a millennial like me who grew up watching Nickelodeon, Disney, and all that stuff, you know where I'm about to go with this. All right. Uh, we got to talk about Quiet on Set, which is the documentary that you can find on Max, formerly known as HBO Max, but they just shortened it to Max. It's out. It's 4 episodes, and basically, this documentary is basically talking about the work environment at Nickelodeon. Excuse me, around like the late '90s, all the way through like, man, like shoot, recently, like how many years ago? A few years ago. So it's 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 a crazy documentary, and you have a lot of former child stars from Nickelodeon coming out speaking out against the work environment under the supervision of Dan Schneider. Okay, uh, Dan Schneider was a writer. He's a producer, creator of some of your favorite Nickelodeon shows. Um, if you're older than I am, you'll probably remember him at what's that show? Was it Head of the Class? So it was a wild documentary and everything like that. Before I give you my uh, reaction to it, uh, I'm just going to just let you know it was a lot of crazy stuff that took place on this, um, pretty much on the set and everything like that. And you have a lot of people who's speaking out about it. The work environment pretty much was just when you think about it, the work environment was just absolutely terrible, right? And I'm not just talking about just for the child actors, right? We're talking about the writers. We're talking about the directors. We're talking about um, other staff members. Under his watch, it was just a bad work environment, and a lot of people came out and talked about it and stuff like that. So it's this really kind of messed with my childhood in a sense because one thing they brought up and what I'm about to say is not just pertaining to Nickelodeon. You can also probably see it on Disney as well. There was a lot of sexual innuendos on um on his shows, pretty much, right? And they talked about it. I mean, the most popular is Ariana Grande, the stuff that she was doing. It was kind of like, man, they're not really are they when you get older, and by the time those shows came out, like Victorious, Drake and Josh, iCarly, stuff like that. I was pretty much phased out of Nickelodeon. Even now, I go back and watch the '90s cartoons, Nickelodeon cartoons, or even just like '90s cartoons in general, because that's my era. I'm an '80s baby, but the the behind the scenes stuff where a lot of these actors and writers talked about, It was so crazy. It was so dark. I can't even put it into words. But before we go, Dan Snyder has apologized. Um, he basically, he pretty much said, "quote to CBS News, facing my past behaviors, some of which are embarrassing that I regret. I definitely owe some people, a pretty strong apology, things like that. Obviously, he did create that work environment and things like that. He's been at he's basically been the meal ticket for Nickelodeon for pretty much about 20 years. Okay. And don't get me wrong, he created, what you see on camera, created a lot of amazing shows, but at the same time, when you think about what has happened to these actors after the fact, you kind of like, man, what's been going on? And then when this Quiet on Set documentary came out, me and my wife, we watched all 4 episodes, and he started writing on all that, but his true big break was the Amanda Bynes show, which he created. Um, that relationship between him and Amanda Bynes was a little creepy from the beginning. It's almost like he had this, and when you really watch his documentary, right? I'm also gonna give you my feedback as we go. When you watch his documentary, it's almost like he had this infatuation with young girls. That's what it looked like. Like he had this infatuation with young girls, and it was almost a little too creepy, right? It's kind of like, okay, nobody is actually supervising the supervisors on these sets, right? I'm not understanding all of that. Even with the complaints, right, from different staff members, it's kind of like at some point, if you investigating the same guy over again about these complaints, there's some truth to it, right? The writers, when he hired his first two writers who are women, he asked them to split a salary, which one, it was against no laws anyway. You don't split a salary. Everybody gets paid their own separate salary. Um, and he also felt like these women were conspiring against him. He made some jokes that was kind of inappropriate for the workplace and everything like that. Him himself couldn't even take a joke if it's directed at him. That's what gets me. Like he's a guy that could dish it out, but he couldn't take it. Right. He was more of a control freak. I felt like his behavior was all over the place. He's supposed to be this guy to make the set fun and everything, but then he has this other side to him where he was just a mean, cruel prick. You know what I mean? So I don't. It was just his situation was crazy, and you have people coming out against him, right? Coming out against him. Of course, he's gonna hire friends and everything like that. You see actors come out, and when you talk about child actors, they don't really understand what they get into. All that they see is the work, but they don't really understand the behind the scenes and all. That's why I think parents, you know, if parents are involved and they're not really living through their kids, um, because obviously you have some parents who do live through their kids. Unfortunately, I just think that they, if they truly had your back, which I'm gonna go to the next part of this, if they truly have your back, they could actually sit there, take a step back, and say, "This ain't right. Some about this is a little off, and I don't want my child to be a part of it." Right? The behaviors on set, it was just when you talking about it, it reminds me of what's that show that you see on, I think it's Vice. Was it Dark Side of Wrestling? You That's what it reminded me of, right? And I'm not saying this was an experience for all the child actors, right? But for quite a few of them, this is what This is their experience. And this is what they talked about. They talked about the work environment on the set under the tutelage of Dan Schneider and Nickelodeon. And Nickelodeon, you're not off the hook either, though, because you know, and this is the thing, they know what goes on. The problem is they will let things slide if their bottom dollar is being if their bottom their goals are being reached, right? If he's the money maker, they're like, ah, okay, whatever. We don't want to lose him because we don't have nobody else in place to take over. We about making money, so if we got to sacrifice the kids, then so be it. Which is a wrong thing to do. You know what I mean? But that's what I feel about that aspect of it. Um, but you know, when I think about his relationship with Amanda Bynes, that was an awkward relationship. Ain't no grown man supposed to have that type of relationship with a young girl. Period. No grown man is supposed to have a relationship like that. You know, there's a business relationship and there's a personal one, and that one felt more personal than business. I felt like because the whole time they never said, okay, who is his woman outside of this? You know, is he was he fantasizing on young girls? I don't know, but it's kind of odd that you're always and when you look back at the jokes from all these shows, and he knows this, he pretty much puts in these jokes himself, right? And it's almost like this is some and no executive at Nickelodeon basically looked at this like, yo, this is inappropriate behavior. This is not what kids should be doing, right? And you don't, as a kid, you don't realize that until you get older. You start seeing the hidden messages and jokes within these kid shows. Okay, I think that's one of the issues that's going on is that these executives don't care as long as they bring in the viewers and bringing the money. And the reason why the relationship between him and Nickelodeon uh, went in separate ways was because you know they brought it up during the Me Too movement and everything. Now they had to go really investigate, which they should have done a long time ago. Um, they pretty much kind of like felt pressure, like, hey, yeah, now we got to pretty much like sever ties with this guy. So you waited till a movement happened to, you know, sometimes when there's a, you know, there was fire, but you didn't want to put it out. All thing you saw was green money. That's all you saw, and I think that's BS, especially for a work environment, especially with children, right? Um, if y'all seen Amanda Bynes now, y'all know she went through a lot after that, right? She went through a lot after that, and it's a shame too, knowing that she could have been better protected and she wasn't. Which brings me to the next point. One of co-stars of the Amanda Bynes show was Drake Bell. Now his story was the biggest one throughout the entire documentary. So to really start this off, there was a child um, acting coach, dialogue coach, who worked closely with the child actors and everything like that. And obviously, he worked at Nickelodeon. You've seen him on the Amanda Bynes show. You've seen him, on different shows, right? Guest spots and things like that. Uh, he wasn't a star, but he did some in front of the screen work, but mainly behind the scenes stuff. And there was this guy who basically got fired because he got caught sexually assaulting uh, a child actor, right, at Nickelodeon, who was working with Nickelodeon at the time, and nobody knew who said something to anything, everybody was like, when they put him in I think it was that cast of All That. I think when they came back with All That, they put him in a room and it was like, okay, this is the situation. I guess it was lawyers and things talking to him, and they didn't know what happened. Like, who did this? Who is this? When it's a minor, of course, name is sealed and everything like that until a child actor came to the forefront and in this documentary told his story. And his name is Drake Bell. Drake Bell's story was the biggest one out of all of it. All right. So Drake Bell pretty much got into the industry because of his dad. Drake Bell, obviously loves music. He started a band. He put out albums, acting as well. If you know show Drake and Josh, he was the star of Drake and Josh. And he worked very closely with Brian Peck, who was the guy who pled no contest to sexually assaulting Drake Bell. And we're not talking about a one-time thing. We're talking about, I mean, a period of time. And I'm gonna give a shout out to all the real parents out there because Drake Bell's father basically saw the bullshit right then and there. He's like, hold on, something ain't right. He even went to the executives. He went to the people, and they kind of like pushed them away. Right? They was like, oh well, he's gay, and they thinking he was being homophobic and all that. He's like, no, this ain't for him. It's like it ain't got nothing to do with that. It's the fact that a grown man is around a young boy way too much, and it doesn't feel right. So the father, over the course of time, got fired as Drake's manager because Brian Peck was putting all these things into his mind, basically lying to him so he'd get closer to Drake, like that was his prey. And he successfully did that. Now you got to go convince the mama who didn't know a damn thing that uh that this is the best option. You could take over the finances, man, all of that stuff. She made the decisions for his career. Well, that backfired on her. The dad knew what was up. The mom didn't even care. I think she was just trying to live through the son and basically trying to get a check. She never came out and said anything. I don't know if she ever will. Um, I wish we could have heard her side of the story, but some people don't want to do that. And Drake Drake Bell basically went into detail, but not all the way. But you can basically fill in the blanks about the situation with um him and Brian Peck, and it was gruesome. The fact that he got 16 months was ridiculous. The fact that he had supporters at his trial was even more ridiculous. We talking about supporters in the industry, and I'm gonna call out a couple of guys too. Now I don't know if they responded to it or not. I haven't seen anything, but there's a couple of guys that if you're a millennial like me, you saw this TV show, you were like, man, now I can't even look at them the same, right? Uh, but when you have a grown man constantly wants to be around a boy that's 14, 15 years old, something is seriously wrong with that. And any sensible parent would know that. Drake's father knew that. I don't think Drake's mother knew about that. That's just my honest opinion. I don't think she knew about it. And it got to the point where he was getting closer and closer, talking about let's do all this stuff at my house, which is crazy because even with the cast of All That, I'm not talking about with Keenan and Kel and Lori Beth and that crew. It was the second crew of all of that. Um, or it might be the third iteration. It's yeah, I think it's like the third iteration of the cast, whatever. But they were talking about how they were all at his birthday. I guess Drake Bell had a birthday party at his house. You know, you had the cast who he was really close to. They came over, and one of the cast members saw a painting. This is how, and as a parent or even as an executive that was there, red flag should have been raised right then and there. He got a painting from a basically a serial killer who became pen pals with him. So you're communicating with a serial killer, and nobody thought this ain't strange. This ain't strange, right? I guess people just blew it off. And now you look back at it. You look back at it, the situation. This man got so close to Drake Bell, he felt like he could do anything. Yeah, just have him come to my house. We'll do it at my house, blah, blah, blah. He could sleep on my couch. But guess what? One time Drake slept on that couch, and he said this is on the documentary. When I woke up, I felt him assaulting me. I saw him assault, and he kept doing it. It got to the point where it was like a constant thing. And then, Drake kind of like, okay, he I don't think he told anybody what was going on until one particular moment where he was with his girlfriend. He talked about this. He was with his girlfriend at his girlfriend's house, and his cell phone kept ringing like nonstop, just nonstop, just kept ringing. Then all of a sudden, he went from calling the cell phone to his girlfriend's the house phone at his girlfriend's house, and it's like it kept ringing the two, and it's like girlfriend mom was like picked up the phone, gave Drake the phone to talk to him. You could tell he was a little off. He hung up the phone. He called back again, talking about we gotta go to Disneyland. What grown man is gonna take a teenager to Disneyland all the time? You know what I mean? So right there, it was already suspicious. The only one that really caught on, it was really two people. Drake's dad knew from the beginning, and his girlfriend's mom knew about it because she knew something wasn't right. And he finally he basically confessed to the girlfriend's mom what happened. And what she did was she called the mom and she called the cops. They set him, they pretty much got him on tape confessing to what he has done. They arrested him. It was a big story. He pled no contest, got 16 months, right? 16 months. And what was so weird about that is that Drake talked about the support he really didn't get versus the support that Brian Peck got. And one of those, and we're not only talking about the people who showed up to court, but the people who wrote letters. One of them who wrote a letter responded to the questions from the documentary, basically saying she regretted, she apologized. Somebody who stood up and took responsibility. I'm cool with that, right? But what's so funny is that they were trying to blame the victim, who was a teenager, a boy at that time, talking about, oh, it was temptation, he was pressured. And we're talking about from adults and other child actors as well. Two of them which, and I hate to say this because this show is a classic show. I watched this show. Two of these actors came from Boy Meets World. Uh Ryder Strong, and who played the best friend, and Will Freely, who played the brother, right? And I don't know if they ever came out and defended themselves or they uh apologized, for whatever, but pretty much it kind of let me know that victim blaming is very real. Okay. Victim blaming is very real. And the fact that you had adults coming to this guy's defense, when you plead no contest, basically you're saying, yeah, I did it. Right. I'm on tape. I confess to it. Whatever. Right. In a sense. Um, boy, it was tough, man. It's hard to talk about. Um, let me see. So basically, they came out and basically said they were misled at the time. So I guess they both came out and said that they were misled at the time, and they well, I guess they did came out. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead. And say, I'm looking at this right now. They did both come out and basically admitted that they were wrong. Um, Will basically came out and said, at that time he was naive and all that, but look back at it, it makes him want to cry. Which, when you see the series and everything like that, back then, even back then, when there's smoke, there's fire. And, you know, I give them credit now because when you can make a mistake and apologize for it. All right. At that time, like you couldn't believe it because you probably worked so close to this guy, you couldn't believe he could do something like that. Right. And I don't know about everybody else who came out and said, "Hey, I was completely wrong. I should never wrote that letter to the judge trying to, defending this guy." Um, if they did come out and apologize, listen, I think that's a good thing. You know, you can move on from it and you can support Drake Bell and his dealings with it ever since and all of that. So I just think that it was pretty cool that they've done that. Okay, so they came out, they atoned for their mistakes. I'm cool with that. With that being said, he got sentenced. When he got out, guess who hired him? Disney hired him. You hired a known predator. You hired a known predator, and you have him working with kids again. Like, are you serious right now? Like, are you? I mean, it's in the news. You got the resources. You can actually do a background check on anything and every. Excuse me, anything and everything that you want, right? So, why would you even consider this man for a job? And not only that, but before I go, Nickelodeon, you're not out of the woods because there's no way that you did not know this stuff was going on. You could say y'all investigated and all that stuff y'all want to, but when it's a third time, when it's the fourth time, something is absolutely wrong. Something was absolutely wrong. Ain't no executive producer, no creator of the show is gonna go to a woman asking for a massage every single day. Where your woman at? If you had a woman, why don't you bring your woman on set, give you a massage? That's your woman. Do you have a woman? No. Was he fantasizing on other women? Probably so. Probably just little kids. I don't know, but that didn't even sit right. It didn't even feel right. It didn't look right. See what I'm saying? Um, and Nickelodeon, y'all let this stuff go on too far. No, these kids need to protect you. Y'all had three pedophiles on your lot, on your set. Three. And it showed in the documentary. One dude who basically was sending emails to a girl. First off, the mama allowed this stuff to happen. Ain't no way a parent gonna allow a grown man and her 11-year-old child have direct communication. No, that's not happening. And then it backfired on you. Even when your own mama didn't want to put you in acting in Hollywood and all that stuff because she saw what was going on. She worked in the industry. She saw all that. She said, "No, I'm not going to have y'all go through that." And all of a sudden, this was your chance. You had a child. She had a chance to be an extra on the Amanda show. Ironically, everything comes back to the Amanda show. And you decided, like, oh, she could be an extra. But yeah, you got this guy who admits that he is a pedophile, admitted that, and he was so shaky. He had names with bags on it. He bags with names on it. I'm talking backwards. Bags with names on it. He had like one girl's underwear and all that stuff. It's like seriously. And now you want to cry in front of the camera because you know you didn't take that advice from your own mother and not put your child to put their child in that situation, but you do it with your own child. Again, some parents want to live through their kids. They see an opportunity, they're like, "Oh, I can live through my kids." You got an inappropriate email. Now that child kind of scarred for a very long time because of that. All right. And we're talking about during the days where there was no Wi-Fi. There was dial-up. See what I'm saying? So the documentary, my overall reaction to the documentary is that it did shed a whole lot of light behind the scenes. Um, you had a lot of kid actors, whether you had a few of them that were black, you had some that, of different types of crew, male, female, things like that, brought up their experiences and stuff like that. Um, it's a must watch. If you're a millennial and you remember Nickelodeon, y'all remember Dan Snyder, y'all. If you know who Dan Snyder is, basically he was the if you saw the movie Good Burger, the first one, he was the manager. He was the big white guy with the black curly hair. That's him. All right. And I don't know. I haven't seen anything else from any other stars from Nickelodeon. Not from Kenan, not from Kel, not from Nick Cannon. I forget he was on all that. Some of the other stars. I don't think I heard anything from Amanda Bynes, anything like that. But you did hear, or not even Ariana Grande. So it was a lot that was going on, and I just think that by the end of the day, by the end of the day, it's a must watch. Um, who knows this? I mean, hey, listen, Disney could be next. Disney could be next. We never know what happened with that, but um, I'm glad that the truth came out and stuff like that. I'm glad now they can speak their truth. Now they can move on with their lives and stuff like that. Um, those who supported Brian Peck, I know we heard a few of them came out and said, "Hey, I wish I would have took it back." So um, at that time, you could be naive, right? But it's also too you can admit you're wrong. So to Will and Ryder, I think you guys stood up to that. So shout out to you guys for standing up to that. At first, I was like, I ain't see anything. I was trying to look for the reactions or the response to it, and then I found it. I was like, all right, cool. At least you admitted to your um to your mistakes. That's what it was. But it is a must see. Everybody's talking about it. Um, but yeah, when you get to Drake Bell's side of things, man, that is the one out of the whole documentary. That's the one piece that stood out to most of me. And I mean, I hope he's at peace now. I hope he's at peace with it, and I hope he could, continue on and move forward with his life and have a happy and fulfilled life. So that's just my reaction to how I felt about the whole thing. All right, y'all, man. Thanks for tuning in to Drinking After Dark podcast, man. Hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. I hope you guys drank responsibly. Also, y'all make sure y'all follow Drinking After Dark podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. New episodes are uploaded on YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts. So y'all check that out. Please support, tell your friends and family. Um, I'm also going to do another reaction. So next week, I'm actually going to watch this thing once we get off of here because I'm going to talk about this too. So y'all stay tuned in. I'm not going to let y'all know what it is, but some of y'all probably know I'm going to go with it. But Until next time, man, y'all stay safe. Have a blessed weekend. I'm Darius from Drinking After Dark Podcast, and we out. Peace.
Gotta get to the money. Gotta get to the money. Early morning, so you know that I'm on it. So you know that I'm on it. Gotta make sure that my family straight. Gotta make sure that the kids and me. Gotta make sure that the bills is paid. And then let's get to the money. Get to the money. Early morning, so you know that I'm on it. And gotta make sure that my family straight. Gotta make sure that the kids and they. Gotta make sure that the bills is paid. And then let's get to the money. Get to the money.